The following program, Live and Learn, is made possible by Aging Partners. Find out more on their website.
Hi everybody, welcome to Live and Learn. My name is Kim Hachia. My guest today is Mike Forsberg, a conservation photographer, and we're going to be talking about cranes, antelope or pronghorn, and all sorts of different things. So stay tuned.
Hello, I'm Julie Masters. As people age, health concerns can become an issue. Understanding how best to support a loved one is key. Joining me today via Zoom to discuss the benefits of a geriatric assessment are Dr. Cassandra Wheeling from UNMC and Diane Hendricks with Nebraska Medicine. Stay tuned.
Hello everyone and welcome to Live and Learn. I'm your host, Jerry Renaud. It is that time of year where we want to start thinking about getting ourselves in a little bit better shape as we head into spring and gardening and walking and bicycling and doing all of those kinds of things. Aging Partners has some wonderful fitness classes that are taking place right now. Here to talk to them about it is going to be Karen O'Hara. She is Aging Partners Health and Fitness Coordinator. Stick around.
Today I'll be talking with Christine Dykman-Schoening, who is with Bridge to Better Living, who will help families find a senior community for their loved one, whether it be long-term care, memory care, assisted living, or even independent living.
This and more on today's Live and Learn.
Hi everybody, welcome to Live and Learn. My name's Kim Hachia. It's my pleasure to be here today, and I want to thank our friends at LNK TV and Aging Partners for producing the show. Today my guest is a longtime friend and colleague. His name's Michael Forsberg. He's an internationally known conservation photographer and storyteller and author. And he and I have been involved in several collaborations together. And today we're going to talk about sandhills cranes, about whooping cranes, the Great Plains, and who knows where we're going to end up. But welcome, Mike. Thanks for coming to the show.
Good to be here, Kim.
Yeah, thanks.
Yep.
So briefly tell me how you got to be a conservation photographer and storyteller.
Briefly?
Briefly, I know.
I got a degree in geography from the University of Nebraska. I was born and raised here in Lincoln, and when I worked for an outdoor adventures program at the U, I started carrying a camera with me, and I instantly fell in love with the camera. I always loved nature and the outdoors, and ended up getting a job, ended up getting a job with Nebraska Land Magazine. It's my first job as a professional photographer, and things took off from there. So I like telling stories of the place that's our big backyard here in Nebraska. So
I know part of our big backyard is crane migration.
Yeah.
And we're taping this in January. Cranes will probably start showing up. They may already be there. Mid-Platte area, mid-February.
Mm-hmm.
So when I think about you, my first thought is about cranes. So how did you get interested in cranes, and what's your story there?
My grandparents were in Kearney, Nebraska, and I went to visit them on an Easter when I was a teenager. And when we got done eating, Grandpa wanted something else to do, so he said, "Let's go for a drive." And we hopped into his car, and we started driving the county roads, and ended up parking next to the Platte River, close to sunset. I said, "Grandpa, what are we doing here?" And he said, "Well, just wait." And pretty soon, as the sun was setting, in started coming all of these cranes from all over. It's like the flying monkeys, in the Wizard of Oz. And I had no idea that was there, that happened, and that really set an anchor for me. I've been out to the cranes to see them on the Platte every year since then, and that's going on 50 years now, probably, or close to it.
I think we have some photos that we might just roll in the background talking about cranes. I have a similar story. My first job out of college, I worked in Hastings, and a friend of mine who was a photographer there said, "You got to go up and see these crazy birds."
Yeah.
I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And so we went up to a blind. I think it was probably at Mormon Island or Shoemaker, I'm not sure. And it was one of those old, just sort of in the dirt kind of blinds with straw bales. And the cranes started coming in, and they were exactly like the flying monkeys in the Wizard of Oz, but it was an amazing experience.
Yeah, it's magical.
Yeah, it really is. The picture we're showing now is of whooping cranes. I know you're kind of involved in a whooping crane project right now. How'd you get interested in whooping cranes?
Well, so in North America, we have 2 crane species. There's 15 worldwide, but we have the most populous crane species, the sandhill cranes. There's roughly 1 million of those birds. We also have the rarest, which is the whooping crane, which stands another foot taller. They're 5 feet tall. They're angel white, and they're one of the rarest birds in the world. So when you go watch cranes on the Platte in the spring, you're going to see sandhill cranes, but you may, if you get really lucky, see a whooping crane. And my first book that I did as a photographer was on sandhill cranes in North America, and now, many years later, I figured this would be full circle to do one on whooping cranes. So I've been following those birds for the last 4 or 5 years, up and down the continent, from northern Canada to the Gulf Coast of Texas.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I know what you say about you can't get lucky, and we've seen whooping cranes.
Yeah.
Probably the same one, because we just see this one bird
Right.
hanging out
Right.
with sandhill crane buddies. And,
Right. Yeah.
I remember the first time I saw one, I was with a friend and I said, hand me the binoculars because I'm not sure what I'm seeing here. And we decided it was either a whooping crane or a llama.
Right. Well, on the Platte, it could be both.
I know. And the guy
Yeah.
at a Biology Suite showed the pictures too at Crane Trust, said, I'm going to put you girls in the Federal Register as seeing a whooping crane.
Yeah, see, that's important.
Yeah,
That's-
and I had atypically, I had marked it, GPS marked it on
Yeah.
my phone, so he was able to put it down. And I think you had seen the same bird maybe a couple days before, so I kind of knew there was going to be one. But
For the craniacs out there that try to find whooping cranes every year on the Platte, we oftentimes will see single birds, and affectionately, those single birds are all called the same name. They call them Bob.
oh, that's right. That's
So
right.
it may be the same, it might be different, but yeah, if you think about it, those whooping cranes back in 1940, there were only 15 in the world. So today, there's close to 800. About 500 of those are still wild and migrating, and so it's a conservation success story in a lot of ways, but they've got a long way to go. And it's a
Yeah.
very special thing to have them here in Nebraska for that brief time, and they pass through in the spring and the fall.
Yeah, it is. They are remarkable to see because they are so big and they just are
Yeah.
so bright white. I mean,
Yeah.
you can't
Yeah,
miss them.
yeah, they're
so.
angels. So.
Yeah. So, if somebody like me just wants to go out and look at cranes,
Mhm.
what should they do? Just get in the car and
drive
drive?
west, yeah, about an hour and a half down Interstate 80 and hang a left, either at the Alda exit or the Gibbon exit. Basically between Grand Island and Kearney on the south side of the river is Crane Central. And so on the east end there's Crane Trust Visitor Center. And that's one really great public entry point.
Mm-hmm.
Another one is Audubon's Row Sanctuary, which is closer to Kearney. And at both of those places, you can call in and sign up for blinds. People will take you out to blinds in the morning and in the evening to watch these birds come to and from the river. But you can also just drive those roads, those county roads, and eat your ham sandwich and drink
Yep.
your coffee and
Yep.
just enjoy being out in the wonder of it all, because it's not just cranes that are out there. We have this international flyway in the sky. It's like a big highway up in the sky that's pumping through about 20 million birds in the spring and the fall that come and rest and refuel on the Central Platte. So besides cranes, you have all manner of geese and ducks and shorebirds and eagles and auks, and this, the list goes on and on. It's one of the greatest bird watching places in North America.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
It's magic.
Yeah, I was out there a couple of years ago with my same friend that we saw the whooping crane with. That was
Yeah.
literally her first trip out there. We saw that whooping
Wow.
crane, and we were at Row, and she said, I've never seen an eagle. And I said, there's one over there.
Right. That's pretty much what happens there. And it's not just what you see, it's what you hear.
It's what you hear.
Yeah, it's a sound that lingers. When you go back home at night and you go to sleep and close your eyes, you hear all of those birds.
Well, and
So,
both Crane Trust and Row have those live cams,
they do.
and
yeah.
so you can hear, and as
Yep.
does Platte Basin Time Lapse, and
Yep.
so now we've segued into that. So
Yeah, yeah.
talk a little bit about Platte Basin Time Lapse.
Well, Platte Basin Time Lapse is a project that my buddy Mike Farrell, who worked for NET Television for about 1 million years as a producer telling stories in the Great Plains, he and I started that project in 2011, and we came to the university to ask them if they would be a partner in this project. And that was 12 years ago. So what that is a project that looks at our home watershed, the Platte Basin, and asks the question, where does our water come from? And so we use water as a muse to tell stories all across parts of Colorado, Wyoming, and Nebraska, and I've created this project where we have a bunch of time-lapse cameras that are set in place for years at a time, taking pictures every hour of every day to watch time change and watch the land unfold and change with the seasons. And we also have classes at the university that we teach that are attached to it, an internship program. The project is a learning laboratory. Really, the Platte River is the stage, and it's sort of a launch pad for students that want to become conservation storytellers. So it's been quite a ride. And you know, in a university frame, we always get asked, well, what are your measurable outcomes of this sort of project? And it's really hard for us to do that, but I always say, look at the young people that we've had here that pass through this program and the things that they're doing today, bridging the art, science, humanities, and it's been really, really wonderful. So.
I know you're working on another project in Wyoming on elk and pronghorn migration. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, in the Platte Basin Time-Lapse Project, one of the things we do is tell stories, and those stories then exist as essays and also a lot of times short films. So up in the upper reaches of the watershed along the Colorado-Wyoming border, there's amazing migration of pronghorn primarily, but also elk and deer, and I've been trying to document that migration across these working landscapes, across a series of ranches with ranchers that I've gotten to know, and it's become a really great community effort, using a lot of game cameras, camera traps, putting them out to see these animals move, and through seeing them move, we understand how we can help them continue to move freely as best they can during the winter time when things get really nasty and they have to move somewhere else. So it's been a great project to work on, and gotten to know an awful lot of people. So.
Well, I know that that project has also involved a class of school kids who are pretty hardy little souls who go out, and you showed them lots of different things. And it's a great way to teach science because you're just involved in it. Here's a picture of you with them. And one of the
those are the kids from the science class at Encampment School, which is a tiny little community in southern Wyoming, and their teacher and a couple of the guys that are part of the leadership team at the ranch. And I think that day it was about 10 degrees out, and we walked for about 3 miles, and we were out all morning checking these cameras. Not one complaint.
Wyoming kids are tough.
These kids that come off the farm and ranch are tough kids, and they're good kids, and they do not complain. So.
Yeah. Well, I know throughout the course of your work with Platte Basin and with other things, you've met a lot of people like that and really made a lot of connections. Does that give you any sense of hope for our environmental future?
It does. The people that still live out on the land are not just looking at it as some canvas to extract something for profit. They're making a life with the land, and that's a very different sort of relationship. It's an intimate relationship. And they know where their water comes from. They know where their food comes from. They know the value of wildlife and wild places, and they're still out there. The world's changing, and we increasingly live in cities and bigger communities now, and we're losing those connections. So it's even more important today to lift up why those people matter and what they have to say, the landscapes that they steward and protect, and the wildlife that also is making a life out there too. There's no more important time than now to tell those stories.
I agree. I also think that you referenced that more of us live in cities and in urban areas, and I do think that it's important for us to understand that we can have interactions with wildlife
right in our own backyard.
In Bishop Heights, right?
Yep, you bet.
And we have fox that run through our
Yep.
property. We have tons of fox tracks
Yep.
right now in the snow, and you see them in your yard,
Yep.
and it's just I like that we're sort of nurturing a generation of people that are noticing that, and that we don't
Yeah.
have to go to Yellowstone to see wildlife. We can
Yep.
see it, in Tierra Park.
Yeah,
And
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
And each of those little creatures has their own story to tell too.
Yeah.
And when you think about it, some of them are coming from halfways across the continent to be in your backyard at that feeder
Yep.
because they need you
Yep.
for that week.
Yep.
You know.
Yep. Mike, we are out of time. You and I could have talked about this, and we have for hours and hours and hours.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate that you took the time to come into the studio today, because I know you're busy, and I appreciate it. So thanks.
My pleasure, Kim. Thank you.
And I'd like to remind our viewers that it's never too late to live and learn about the wildlife around us.
My kid has been asking for this hot new gaming thing, and I was like, okay, he had a birthday coming up anyway. So I finally find the video game online, in stock. Thing is, it was from this shoddy website full of typos. That's when I remembered a tip I got from the AARP Fraud Watch Network. Bogus website? This is a shopping scam. Got us matching t-shirts instead.
Recognize fraud sooner,
He loves his.
so your money lives longer. The younger you are, the more you need AARP.
Hello, everyone. I'm Julie Masters, and welcome to Live and Learn. Thanks to LNK TV Production, Dave Norris, and Aging Partners for producing this show. Thank you as well to my co-hosts for your ongoing support. Finally, a special thank you to the late Lita Powell Drake. You are missed. Well, I am pleased to have two very special guests with us via Zoom today to talk about geriatric assessments. Dr. Cassandra Wheeling is a board-certified geriatric medicine specialist and assistant professor with the University of Nebraska Medical Center. Diane Hendricks is a licensed clinical social worker in the Division of Geriatrics, Gerontology, and Palliative Care, Department of Social Work with Nebraska Medicine. She holds a master's degree in social work and a graduate certificate in gerontology from the University of Nebraska, Omaha. Welcome to you both.
Thank you, Julie, for having us.
Oh, very delighted and pleased to have you with us. Thank you. So, Dr. Wheeling, could you tell our viewers a little bit about your background and training, and why did you decide to become a geriatrician?
Yes, thanks, Julie. So I went to undergraduate at University of Nebraska-Lincoln, and I got a degree in biosystems engineering. And then after that, I went to medical school at the University of Nebraska Medical Center. And then after that, I decided to do a residency that was actually combined in internal medicine and pediatrics. And during that residency, I got a chance to be on a rotation with the geriatric doctors up here in Omaha. And I really loved the rotation, and I loved the approach to patient care. I liked that we got to focus on quality of life and what's important to the patients, and really get to know the patients that came into the clinic as well. And so because I was had so much fun on that rotation, I decided that I think this is what I want to do with my life. So when I finished my residency, I decided to stay on for another year and do a fellowship at the University of Nebraska Medical Center as well, up here in the gerontology department. And then now I have decided to take a post here. So now I work at the Home Instead Center for Successful Aging up in Omaha.
Oh, Dr. Wheeling, for all the older adults that you have cared for or will care for in the future, thank you for deciding to pursue a career and a vocation in geriatrics. Very grateful to you. Now, Diane Hendricks, could you tell us a little bit about your background as well as why geriatric social work?
Yeah, I would agree very much with my colleague, Dr. Wheeling, and the things that she shared that brought her to the area of working with older adults. In the past 40 years of my career, I've had an opportunity to work on interdisciplinary teams, whether that was at the start of my career in long-term care, or whether that be in end-of-life care on a hospice team. And then currently, in the past 16 years, I've been here at the geriatric clinic here at Nebraska Medicine, and we practice what we're designated as a patient-centered medical home model. I think in all those geriatric settings that I've had an opportunity to work in, I've always had an interprofessional team with great mentors. But as it began, you could see that the team evolved. And so I really appreciate the academic setting where we can start to influence the next generations of how to work on these interprofessional teams using evidence-based practices and research. And as we share what matters most to the older adult. So thank you.
Diane, thank you. And thank you so much, just as I said to Dr. Wheeling, for your decision to pursue a career, a vocation in geriatrics, how important it is to have you as someone who interacts with patients, but also as a mentor for others. So thank you. Now, Dr. Wheeling, what is a geriatric assessment and how is this different from an annual physical?
Yeah, so the geriatric assessment is a comprehensive evaluation of the patient's health. It involves teams from multiple areas, including psychiatry, neuropsychology. There's a geriatrician like me that's on the team. There's social work that's on the team, pharmacy's on the team. We also have nursing on the team. So you get all of these really highly trained medical professionals all working together to try to create a good plan for the patient's health. So that is one way in which this clinic is very unique, is it's very interdisciplinary. We have a lot of opinions from a lot of different people kind of coming together for the patient. The other thing is we do tend to focus a lot on things like memory or functional status for our patients. So oftentimes the patients that are coming into the clinic, either they or their family have a concern about their memory, or they could have a concern about their ability to thrive in their current environment at home. And so we try to help with answering those questions and help with creating a way for them to thrive in their environment as well.
Very good. Thank you. Diane, can you discuss who might be involved in an assessment and how can an older adult and his or her family member be prepared for this visit?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that Dr. Wheeling did a nice job with summarizing who the professionals are on the team. And I can tell a little bit more about the role of some of the other professionals, such as the social worker, the pharmacist, and the nurse, because their role is an important piece because they are visiting with what we would say is someone who knows the person the best. So it's not always a family member. You know, I know earlier this week I had a neighbor that came in that had lived next to this person for many years and knew how things were going day to day, whereas family lived outside of the area. So once the person has secured an appointment with the team, the assessment team, you know, a packet is a very, very detailed packet is sent out to not only the patient that we see, but also this person that they are planning to bring with them, their primary care partner. And that information will be a release of information of the providers that they've seen in the last 2 years, so we can see what the trends were in terms of the health changes. It'll have medication lists where the pharmacist is very interested in knowing what they're taking, how long they've taken it, and the reason for and how it's organized. And they'll also have, from the social worker's perspective, want to know when they started to see the changes and what parts of the brain has it affected day to day for them. So how are they driving? How are they managing their finances, laundry, the meal preparation? And so that collateral piece is what we call it, or that person that comes with them is an integral part to helping the team determine what is actually going on and what to rule out. So
very good. Thank you very much. It sounds like a comprehensive visit. Dr. Wheeling, as a geriatrician, what do you hope to accomplish for a patient and their family through a geriatric assessment? And then also, what do you hope to learn about the patient?
So what I want to learn about the patient is obviously things like their medical history, medications, but I also want to learn about who they are and what's important to them and what's important to the family and how we can try to integrate that into their overall health care. So we want to know what their values are, who they were as a person, who they are as a person, and how all of these unique experiences that they've had over an entire lifetime have resulted in the person who's sitting in front of us today. And so we want to try to incorporate that into our plans for the patient as well, so that it can be something that's truly a unique plan for this individual.
Very good. Diane, how can someone request a geriatric assessment? And does it need to be ordered through the person's general health care provider, such as their physician or nurse practitioner, or can they call your office directly?
Yeah, you know, we receive the referrals in a variety of ways. Yes, a person can call requesting it, and oftentimes that is the case where they'll say, you know, I've had some changes on the way I'm thinking and want to get a baseline, and or a family member may call, or a primary care partner may call out of concern. And also, we do receive the referrals from providers and other healthcare systems. And the wait is shorter than people would assume, because there is that intake that's done very carefully to determine if this is a good match for the individual. And we want to, you know, the geriatrician, as well as the entire team, wants to work with the primary care physician so that when a plan is developed, they can hand off very easily to continue that care. But we're seeing, you know, through various attempts to educate other providers, through even that train here at the Med Center, to understand the importance of an overall team. So we have those specialties that also are able to get people started with understanding what might be going on with their overall health, including their brain health.
So, Diane, thank you very much. So, Dr. Wheeling, it sounds that if someone does go through the geriatric assessment, they absolutely can go back to their regular healthcare provider.
Yes, exactly. They can. We actually had, that is generally the expectation with this clinic, is that we're a consultative clinic that can actually provide a really nice assistance to not just the patient, but also their healthcare provider as well. So it's a good way for us to help our colleagues in the community and be kind of a community health system as well, so that they can learn from us, we can learn from them, and we can kind of pass back some of our suggestions and knowledge to the primary care providers, so that patients can really get the assessment without having to completely change their entire healthcare team. We are always available for questions though, so just because you're going back to see your primary care provider doesn't mean that either the patient, the family, or even the primary care provider can call our clinic and, you know, if something changes, ask us, what would you do with this? Or, you know, this has changed and now we're not really sure. And we are more than happy to be there to help the patients, the families, and our colleagues in the community.
So it's really a team approach, whether it's in the clinic or once the person returns to the community. And that's an important discovery, I think. Thank you. So Dr. Wheeling, and then also Diane, for persons living in Lincoln, what options are available to them for a geriatric assessment? Because you're located in Omaha, but we know that for our listeners with Live and Learn, being in Lincoln and surrounding areas, they may wonder who else can they contact? Mm-hmm. How else can they get involved in a geriatric assessment?
Yeah, and I'll start the conversation, and Dr. Wheeling, feel free to jump in. You know, the best place to start is somebody that you trust as a source of information. And oftentimes that is the primary care physician. And we now kind of broaden the specialties out there. So a lot of times the primary care physician that is familiar with their community, medical community, might refer to a neurologist or a neuropsychologist or even psychiatry, or other specialists that are trained to look at the diseases of the brain. We certainly love hearing that people are able to reach out to, just even starting with the Office on Aging. The Aging Partners there in Lincoln is a wonderful source. The local Alzheimer's Association has the 24 helpline where they have a community resource finder. So if you have questions, you have resources at your fingertips, and what not only the diagnosis, but how to navigate the disease once there is something identified. And we understand that it will progress, and gradually and slowly they'll have step down. So you want that team support ongoing.
You bet. Diane, thank you so much. And while you were sharing that information, the viewers were able to see information about the Alzheimer's Association and how to get in touch with them. Now, if people would like to know more about the Geriatric Assessment Center at the University of Nebraska Medical Center, we would encourage you to go to nebraskamed.com, and that's /geriatrics, or you can call their toll-free number, and we'll show that in just a second, 1-800-922-0000 for an appointment. So I would like to thank both of you. Dr. Wheeling, thank you so much for choosing a career in geriatrics. We're very grateful. And Diane Hendricks, thank you as well for all the good that you do for families and caregivers, but also people who have been given a diagnosis that might be a little challenging for them. So thank you for what you do. And everyone, remember, it's never too late to live and learn. Thank you.
I was doing some shopping and got a pop-up on my laptop. Computer had a virus. So I called the number on the page, and the guy on the phone wants to take control of my screen to sort it out. Then I remember a tip I got from the AARP Fraud Watch Network. Control my screen. This is a tech support scam. Thankfully, my order still went through.
Recognize fraud sooner so your money lives longer. The younger you are, the more you need AARP.
So separate that horse's mane as you step left and turn your back heel, your right heel, out just slightly. And this one goes right into the next form, which is grasp the peacock's tail. So turning your right palm up and bringing it up and over the left. Now turn your hands over and imagine you have a peacock's tail, right?
There you see one of the many fitness classes that are available from Aging Partners, a great way to get yourself into a little better shape before the nice weather comes this spring. Hello everyone and welcome to Live and Learn. I am your host, Jerry Renaud. Today we want to talk about all of the great things that Aging Partners has going on, and in particular we want to talk about some of the fitness classes that are going to be offered this spring. Some of them are probably already up and running, but it certainly means that you are available to be able to still come down and check into those classes. Here to talk everything Aging Partners is Karen O'Hara. She is the Health and Fitness Coordinator at Aging Partners. Thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
We appreciate that. All right, let's talk about Aging Partners. One of the things that I somehow tend to always put at the end after we talk about the classes is the fitness center. And I thought this time, let's just flip that around and let's put the fitness center up front, because I just think the fitness center is such a great place. It's a great opportunity for people to go down, even if they haven't done much with that kind of equipment. There's somebody there that will teach them how to operate the equipment, how to use it, what's the best way, what kind of weight should I use, all of those things. Tell us about the fitness center.
I agree that the fitness center is a wonderful facility. Our fitness center is open from Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. And we have a wide range of cardio and strength equipment, as well as a number of other pieces of equipment. We have personal trainers available by appointment only on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We're going to have some new pneumatic strength equipment coming up soon. For people 60 and older, there is a $10 per month suggested contribution, and then for people under the age of 60, there's a $15 per month required fee. We are located at 555 South 9th Street, just west of the City County building.
Okay. Pneumatic, tell me what that means.
It means that people, it's like powered by air, and people can adjust the weights by just using their thumbs. It's a lot simpler to use than our traditional strength equipment.
Oh, okay, very good. So I know people can get a little scared of some of the equipment there, but again, you have somebody there that will show you how to operate it, how to make sure that it's safe, how to make sure there's not too much weight on. When you do the cardio, how to be able to keep an eye on all that stuff, right?
Yeah, and we have people to show the equipment like most of the time throughout the week, and then we have personal trainers who can do it in more detail on Tuesdays and Thursdays. It is by appointment only.
Right. And the price is, you can't beat that anywhere in town. I mean, if you're wanting to join a fitness club or any other organization like that, it's going to be a lot more expensive. So it's really a great deal.
Yeah, it really is. And we encourage people to stop down and try it out.
Yeah, and we should also let people know that it is sometime going to be moving as well. So we need to sort of keep an eye on all of that. You're moving to a new location. It's going to be a situation where all of the services are all going to be under one roof, whether it be the fitness center, whether it'll be the food service, any of those things. Tell us a little bit about the new location.
Yes, we plan on moving to our new Victory Park location at 600 South 70th Street this coming spring. Victory Park will have, as you said, most of Aging Partner services under one roof. We'll still have senior centers and fitness classes throughout the community, but participants will be able to visit the senior center, the fitness center. They can visit with financial or benefits counselors, all under one roof, so that it'll be a lot more combined services. The building is located in the former outpatient VA clinic, which is right behind the old VA hospital. Construction is just finishing up, so we'll be in our new headquarters before you know it.
Okay, sounds wonderful. Now, one of the things that I think is also going to be wonderful is great parking, easy access to all of those services.
Yes, and there's a bus that'll go right up to our front door.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, and some of the classes are going to be taught there. We're just about to sort of segue nicely into, let's talk about some of the classes that Aging Partners has offered up this spring. We are airing this program in February, so some of these programs have started already, but the ones we're going to talk about are available. People can still come down and get involved in these classes. You're sort of going through this transition with the new location and all of these things, so it's not quite as many classes as normal.
Not quite as many, but as we move into the new location, we'll be back up to full speed in no time.
Okay, wonderful. All right, so let's talk about some of the classes. Chair yoga. Kind of a little misnomer on the name a little bit, but it's really a great class and really a popular one.
Oh yeah, chair yoga is a gentle form of yoga that utilizes the creative use of a chair for balance and stability. So it's not all done while seated. I think some people think chair yoga, you're sitting the whole time. Basically the chair just becomes kind of a prop and you can hold on to it for balance. The class focuses on balance and breathing, and the participants can work at their own pace and to their own level of their own abilities. We have a wonderful yoga instructor who has led this class for years. It's definitely worth checking out.
Okay, and again, it is going to be at East Ridge Presbyterian Church. It's on Wednesday mornings from 9 to 10, and it will go through March 29th. But it doesn't mean that the classes are really going to end there. You just sort of set them up in sessions. There will be another session, and there is a suggested fee for this course, right?
Yes, we have a suggested contribution currently of $4 per class.
Okay.
So
that's a great price. And the thing about the chair is lots of the classes will use a chair as a prop in some fashion, and as we get a little older, I know it's my case, certainly balance is not quite what it used to be. It's nice to have that chair to hang on to it, doing some of those stretches and things.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Okay, here's another fun one, and it's pretty much of a regular one, Dance for Life. It's one of my wife's favorites. Tell us a little bit about Dance for Life.
So yeah, Dance for Life is, as the title suggests, a dance class that incorporates warm-ups and gentle stretches and dance moves, and it really gets the heart rate going and it improves your core stability. The music is generally oldies. There's a few line dancing steps thrown in. It's one of our most popular group classes and has been offered for many years at Aging Partners Health and Fitness. It really gets the heart going, and it's open to all ages and abilities. It's just a really, really fun class.
And it's not, I know lots of people go, well, I don't really know how to dance or do any of those things. I don't know how to line dance, but the instructor's right there, and they're going to help you through all of that, won't they?
The instructor leads all of the moves. You don't have to have any dance experience whatsoever.
Okay, very good. And I know you say oldies, but I've heard the music. It's not always just oldies. There are some other things that get tossed in there once in a while. I know the instructors have some sort of fun with that. Again, let's make sure we talk about where that is. It's at Auld Pavilion, Wednesdays 10:30 to 11:30. It says it ends on February 22nd, but again, that's going to be one of these that will be continued on into the next session.
Absolutely. We just start new sessions when the other one ends. You know, there's usually very little time. There's a very little break generally between these sessions.
And is that the same, the fee suggested?
Contribution.
Contribution.
Yep. Okay. It should be $4 per individual class.
Okay, very good. All right, now, one of my favorite classes, it used to get offered a couple of times, one of them on Zoom, but again, because of you're into this transition, it is just the one time during the week, and that is the Qigong class. It's kind of this gentle meditation kind of a thing. Let's talk about this class.
Yes, so Qigong started out as an ancient martial art. If you can think of doing a martial art in kind of slow motion. It utilizes gentle movements, stretches, balance, and strength moves to provide a great core workout. But it doesn't feel like a workout. It's very meditative, as you mentioned. If you're looking for a fun, relaxing class that really packs a punch and can help with your balance and stability, this would be a really good class for you.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites. I've taken it for a number of years now. It actually started way back when soldiers had been injured and they were in their hospital beds and were unable to do much movement, and that's sort of where it started. So kind of a fun little fact that nobody cares about. But anyway, very interesting class. It's at St. Mark's United Methodist Church. It's on Thursdays from 2:30 to 3:30, and I think Mitzi is teaching this class, is she?
Yeah, yes, she's currently teaching that
Okay,
class.
very good, and she's wonderful. Okay, you also have some other events that are going on with Aging Partners. One of those, which I think is wonderful, is the Caregivers Support Group. It meets the second Tuesday of every month. Really important class. Tell us a little bit about this.
Yes, so caregivers, they do a lot of hard work and they need support too. So Aging Partners Health and Fitness does offer a caregiver support group, and as you mentioned, it's the second Tuesday of every month at St. Mark's United Methodist Church, which is at 8550 Pioneers Boulevard. These groups are available to people of any age who provide care for an older adult or who provide care to individuals with Alzheimer's or brain injuries. And it's also open to people over the age of 55 who are caring for a grandchild. So it's there's a lot of people who can qualify for this class. The group is led by a licensed independent mental health practitioner. There are no appointments necessary, you just show up.
Okay, very good. I have a family member who has Alzheimer's, and I know the caregiver can be under a lot of stress at times. So having an outlet like this is important.
It's very important, and people really, they need to have a private space where they can talk about their issues and where they'll be safe and that their issues are kept within the group. It's just a really wonderful private place to talk about their issues.
Yeah, and it isn't open. People are not going to be have to be worried about any of this information getting out. It's very private.
No, it's kept very private.
Cool, very good. It's very important. I just so many great things that Aging Partners is doing, and you mentioned a few of them earlier. I just think it's sort of this little hidden gem within the city with food, Social Security, even taxes.
Yeah, absolutely. Aging Partners can help people over the age of 60 at every stage of their, from getting ready for retirement to end of life. We have everything in between. If people need to see a social worker, if they need help with Medicare, if they need help staying in their homes, if they're looking for housing, if they're looking for in-home services. Oftentimes we can provide legal assistance for people. There's just so much that Aging Partners offers, and so they should really look into Aging Partners services. We provide a ton of services to older adults.
Yeah, it's just a wonderful little gem. If anybody has any questions or concerns about the classes or anything that's going on, what's the best way for people to find out information?
So for Aging Partners Health and Fitness, they can reach us at 402-441-7575. Our fitness center in our main health and fitness location is at 555 South 9th Street, just west of the City County building.
Okay, very good. Karen, thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate it very much.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
And thanks to all of you for tuning in today. I'm your host, Jerry Renaud. Please stay safe, stay healthy, and remember, it's never too late to live and learn.
So, I'm playing with the dog, and I get this robocall from the Social Security Administration saying my card had been suspended and I had to call them back immediately. And that's when I remembered a tip from the AARP Fraud Watch Network. Random robocall? This is a Social Security scam.
Recognize fraud sooner.
Robots.
So your money lives longer. The younger you are, the more you need AARP.
Hello, I'm Barb Tyler, and today I'm talking with Christine Dykman-Schoening, Director of Development for Bridge to Better Living, which is a service that helps people explore options for the care, whether independent living, assisted living, or long-term care. Christine, welcome. Perhaps over the last family gathering, people have noticed that maybe there's a change in a loved one in their family. Maybe they weren't as neat in appearance as they normally are, or maybe the house was in disarray. What should their initial response be when they find something like this out?
I think their initial response, Barb, should be stay calm, right? Because don't panic. And then talk with their loved one. Talk with the older adult and see what might be going on in their lives that is causing this disarray. Is it hygiene issues? Is it more housekeeping issues or home maintenance? And really get their perspective. It's a great time then to help them bring back their functional maintenance and get things in order and start really doing research on services that would align well and get that preliminary research completed. And proactivity, I can't stress that enough. You just need to start that proactive, start asking friends, get references of services that could help if they need to be in place long term.
So after these steps have been taken, or maybe you've had a conversation and say, Mom or Dad, is there something going on that we need to know about? What should happen next after you've kind of started this conversation?
Sure. What I'm going to highly suggest is bring in a third party. Bring in a trusted advisor, a trusted consultant, someone that is genuine, someone that has had years of service, that knows the resources, that knows the people in senior care, and get a consultation. Consultations generally last about 90 minutes, and really, you know, try to fold in the older adult. I think that's best if at all possible, and have a sit down. Have the kids there, have the nieces and nephews, whoever the stakeholders are that need to be present for Mom and Dad or aunt and uncle, and start having that conversation.
So when you say stakeholders, does that mean the guardian? Does that mean, explain that a little bit, because I know there's different terms that people use. And what things are discussed? 90 minutes may seem like a long time. What are the topics that will come up during this 90 minutes?
Absolutely. The topics we like to include is like insurance coverage. Oftentimes the kids have no idea what the insurance coverage looks like for Mom and Dad. Do they have Medicare A, B, and D, or do they have C? And talk about supplements. So it's a good time just to really have a thorough insurance conversation. It's a great time to ensure that they have a power of attorney, have an agent appointed for medical and financial. Hopefully they're still in a point that they can do that if they don't have one done. Maybe we need to talk about guardianships, conservatorships, how we do those through a court appointment, doctors' involvement, things of that nature. So about 90 minutes is a good time frame, I think, to have that first consult. Stakeholders can be guardians, they can be attorneys, they can be a good friend, a neighbor, children. So it's really who that power of attorney is and their trusted person.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So often people don't even consider a move, or they had a family member make a promise that they will never be required to move. What's a family to do if this is the case? Obviously, they want the person to have a say-so in their conversations, but if they can't do that, what would the process be?
I would say first and foremost, try your best never to promise that there will never be a move, because that is just very, very difficult. We see that all the time where families are like, no, I'm going to be real honest with Mom and Dad. I promised them not to move, but try not to do that if at all possible. And then I would say, if at all possible, bring in that older adult. Start touring, right? And so if home is not the ideal situation and they want to have an experience in an independent living, an assisted living, memory assisted living, or need long-term care, then we need to start looking at those options.
So if the move is not imminent, then they have the time to go explore and maybe do some lunches or something like that.
Sure, absolutely, yeah. It's best practice if the senior can go and be with the tour, in the tour, involved in the tour. I know our company, we go with them, we take notes, we ask those questions that might not be brought up with the marketing and sales people, and just really try to make it transparent, unbiased. We concentrate on 4 pillars, and those pillars are social, physical, medical, and financial. So we believe firmly that one size doesn't always fit all, and so we really do diligence with those 4 pillars of information, trying to match for the environment and the living communities.
And I imagine too that there's a lot of preconceived ideas that these older people may have, you know, what was considered, what they were used to in the old days. You know, communities are not the same anymore. They have come a long way.
You bet, they've come a long way. So, and I think it's eye-opening for the older adult. So when they go on the tours, it's less scary, right? They're looking for maybe their old friends or neighbors that live in the living community. They just have a whole different perspective about the amenities being offered, the services being offered, you know, culinary experience, being physical with their gymnasium and trainers and pools and what have you. They have a whole different view than it was 40 to 50 years ago in the nursing home setting.
So once you have done a tour or you have visited a community and a move is still not going to be made, what should be considered in the way of home services then for this person that they are just a damn that they're not going to leave? What can be done to keep peace with the person and other members of the family?
Sure, depending on the situation, you could do an emergency response system, a pendant that they would activate if there was a fall, trip, or hazard to get someone to respond and care into the home. You would give the family and the senior a clear overview of home care, what Medicare covers, what Medicare doesn't cover. You would talk about maybe non-medical services, chore services, bathing help, housekeeping help, maybe even some telehealth. Depending if they're rural, we could look at some telehealth. A lot of physicians support the telehealth now, where they could have their vitals transmitted through the phone lines, weight, blood sugars, things of that nature to help. But it's to set up those services that they can be successful, and just be ready that when the move is ready, then we'll be there to support them.
And when you talk about moves, there's a lot involved. And oftentimes an older person has older kids. So there are services out there that can help these older kids make a move as well. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Absolutely. So the services that the trusted advisor, the consultant, you'd look for one that has years of experience, years of knowledge, and everything that we covered today and more. I'm with Bridge to Better Living. You would simply just call us. It's 402-802-3301. And we can help. Talk anything from hospice care to home care to placement. And so, you have to find that person that you feel comfortable with and that you trust and has those years of service to support.
And you would also have access to companies that would help box and move and that sort of thing. Make the arrangements for that. You could contact the community if that's the choice of where they're moving and say, this is what we need to have ready. They're coming in at this point in time. You can be that go-between between the family and so forth.
You bet. It's that transitional piece, right? It's extremely important to have all those moving pieces just in tandem moving in regards to a move-in, setting up services, knowing who to call. It's very important to have it done in tandem.
And I imagine too, you also help, as I remember too, long-term care insurance has so many different aspects anymore. And they probably need to start that, if that's the case, if a person has long-term care insurance, to start that process way in advance, kind of find out what is covered, because financially that is a big thing, whether that person's going to private pay, whether it's going to be a Medicaid situation, that
Absolutely.
sort of thing.
And that's something we would cover too, is the financial piece. And are they a veteran? What type of veteran services can we get in there? Aid and attendance? Are they service connected through the VA, through their service? Also, just like you mentioned, the long-term care, there's so often times that mom and dad might not even know where the policies are. They know they're paying the premiums because they're coming out of their checking account, but what does that cover? What doesn't it cover? Having that call with the insurance company with the families is crucial too. Families really love that, to be able to sit down with that consultant and have that understanding of what their coverage would entail. Does it cover assisted living? Does it only cover long-term care? Maybe it might cover some adult day service, some in-home care. So yeah, it's important, Barb.
So if the move can't be made, there's other options for them.
Absolutely.
So in a Medicaid situation with something like that going on, maybe they have some money sitting in the bank, but there's a pay down or a spend down, I should say. So you could explain all that to them, what maybe you can't move right now, but you could move maybe this fall when the money is have gone down.
We do a lot of that. We you know, there's elder care attorneys out there as well too. We love using Aging Partners as a resource. I've used them as a resource for 34 years. It's being able to have those folks in the community that are passionate about it, that are genuine about it, and that are going to do the right things all the time for seniors.
So people should reach out to you. You are available to tour them at their convenience, I imagine.
We do.
You're kind of on call like a doctor, I would imagine. As
We are.
Yes. So, well, I want to thank you today for taking the time to come out and speak. Is there anything else you wanted to cover?
No, I just think, you know, a rule of thumb that I would always suggest is proactivity, and we talked about that kind of in the first question, is get a handle on things before you're in a crisis mode. Proactivity, your options are going to be better. They're going to be more plentiful. You're going to have the choices that maybe you want to make versus that crisis mode where the choices are made for you.
For them. So, well, thank you again for taking time today to come out and
You're
discuss.
welcome.
And to my audience, thank you for being with us today. Please tune in for more segments, because remember, there's always time to live and learn.